There are more and more signs that Tesla has a number of huge surprises in store for us investors. First, there's a video showing that Tesla has been testing and driving the Cybercab around the Giga Texas factory site over the last couple of weeks. Why are they doing these testings relatively so early if they said volume production is not till 2026? Second, there are unconfirmed reports from China that Tesla's Shanghai Megapack factory will be completed ahead of schedule this December, not next year as originally announced. This is massive if it's true. We've got recent photos to show you just how close to completion it is already looking like. Today, let's discuss the list of potential surprises coming. So we've got the bulls here with us today. I'm Herbert Ong.
I'm Alexandra Merz.
I'm Jeff Lutz.
And I'm Matt Smith.
Okay, so topics today are these Tesla surprises. Are these things, coming ahead of schedule? Are we going to be surprised? Or maybe many of these are just us hoping and wishing that they'll happen. Megapack factory, the new vehicles in Q1. Could there be a record 2024? And then there's an image from Tesla Japan that maybe it doesn't look like Optimus. It could be an R2D2. And then let's talk about demand levers. There's so many things that Tesla is got as promotions today, promotions, referral program, the lease, and others. So let's start with you, Alexandra. So we've got this news that came out. Joe Techmeyer is somebody that follows activity that's happening in Giga Texas. He has a drone there. He's always on site. And he posted this for the last 2 days. He said, Cybercab testing at Giga Texas this morning. There's a Chase Black Model 3. So it's a Black Model 3 that's following along a Cybercab. And the Cybercab has been driving around the factory, north and east sides of the factory today, continuous drive testing. It's going around. It's been apparently doing this for a couple of weeks now. I'm going to play a couple of videos here so you can see what it looks like. And people, and he said that it's being driven around, like when you look closely into the actual car, whenever you can look closer, it doesn't look like that there's actually anybody in there, right? But there's a car following along. Why are they doing this, Alexandra? Why have been testing for the last 2 weeks?
I don't know why they're doing it, but I think it's a major step forward. But before I get into this, I just would like to use this Thanksgiving Day to thank you, Herbert. Obviously, all my Cyberbull brothers as well. But you really made this channel what it is today. You're putting every day so much hard work into it. And I'm really grateful for you. I mean, I'm after you all the time and I love it, but people should know how much we appreciate each other. And I really am very grateful to you.
I'm appreciative of
likewise.
you guys. Thank you. I mean, you guys, this is the best panel there is. Honestly, I'm just so lucky I bring in the best. And of course, we got Matt Smith, the financial bull. Again,
I was going to say, I'm not saying anything nice about you. I'm the nasty uncle that just has to bring up something.
But I am done as well. I'm done as well. That was my 2 minutes of the year.
Okay, go ahead, Alexander.
I do appreciate what you're doing.
The company and the product. I don't look at the quarterly stock movement.
A very realistic bull, questioning certain decisions.
The rational bull. I enjoy listening to bears.
Looking for the red flags. You're supposed to react.
It's just worth reminding people how big this upside opportunity is.
Cybercab, Alexandra, Cybercab.
Yes, let's go back to Cybercab. So I think this is a major step forward. I didn't expect them to start testing it. We're hearing a lot of people saying, well, yes, it's teleguided and whatever. It probably is teleoperated still. But I like, that they're doing it, that they're obviously calibrating the car for any situation and curves and corners and whatever else there is. So that's the first point. The second one I want to make is Joe Techmeyer is really well connected. The 2 times I had the fortune to be in Austin in the factory with Joe, and he invited me to do the factory tour with him. Whenever anybody of the Tesla employees saw him, there were signs, there was thank you, Joe, there was ever. So he has the best information. I'm not saying people deliberately leak whatever, but he's so well connected. I wouldn't know anybody else other than Tesla employees themselves that has so much insight into that company. So whatever I mean, physically, from Austin, but also obviously for the boring and the SpaceX Texas locations. So whenever he brings any news, I think they're reliable. He tries to film as many angles as possible to get us as much good information. He certainly is worth any follow if you want to subscribe to his channel. I think that is, and to his X account, I think that's worthwhile for you to do. So to get back on what they're doing, I think they're calibrating. I think they're testing the road behavior of this car. I'm not sure this is one of the first 25 we saw, or whether this is already a further model. I mean, obviously love the yellow is the new gold color, and so I'm very excited this is happening so early. This is supposed to be a car that comes out in 2026. We're still 11 and a half months, or a good 11 months from that date. So very, very exciting news.
So Joe answered the question. This guy asked, what do they do if it screws up? There's no steering wheel or pedals. Tell me there's a button on the screen that will stop the cab. Joe says they actually use a modified gaming joystick. Really? And then Joe asked, how do you know this? Where can I see this joystick? And Joe said, I've heard from those that know. Now,
yeah,
like you were saying earlier, Joe actually does speak to quite a number of the people that work there. He's seen things that he's not allowed to say sometimes, but
he's very good with that information. When he has something that he is not supposed to tell, or it's too early to tell, he will not do it. And I think that's why people trust him so much. So whenever something is out, he knows that, this is the right moment to give the information.
All right, Jeff, I want to ask you this question. This guy here said this. I think you're totally right. I love it. For me, it's a matter of connecting the dots. Okay, so he goes, why are they testing the Cybercab so early? And he thinks that there's possibly that the Cybercab is ahead of schedule. The Cybercab is having a European tour already. Our podcast friend just came back from his visit in Berlin. So you can see the Cybercab going for a tour. Okay, it's being on tour. And the event, we saw 25 more of these cars. In Walter Isaacson's book, the new production line was top priority. But number 4, that's one I want to ask you, Jeff. Guideline numbers in previous earnings call. It's changed, right? Because initially they kind of hinted that they could do 50% growth, but then in the last earnings, they said 20-30% growth. Now we're seeing this out in the open testing, the Boring Company telling work toward new parking lot. Is there something happening with this car?
Yeah, I think we start with why is a Cybercab on a road track, and connecting the dots from what Tesla is telling us in terms of, maybe start of production at the end of 2025, but volume production in 2026. And everybody needs to key on that, because that's what actually matters. It's the slope of the ramp that matters. It's not the date the factory starts. Sure, it's an interesting data point. It's poignant. It's helpful. But from my couple decades of experience, you could start a factory at various levels of maturity, and it could drag on a lot longer. That's why it was really important to look at the slope of the ramp of the Cybertruck versus, did they start the factory in November and make, 20 or so trucks and ship them out, and then there was a huge gap in time. So what I think they're doing here is, a typical, there's these first 25 cabs or so that were built. They could have been built off of what's called prototype tooling. These are softer tools. These are quick shot, a little bit, in terms of the hardness of the tools are softer. They don't last as long, but you can do it to build prototypes so you can put the product together, and you can do some rudimentary testing, or you can have them available for demos like we just saw. And so, so there's a mixture of, in terms of production techniques that could be happening here. One of the fundamental questions one of the fundamental ways to really understand the maturity of something under development is what % of the bill of material that's in that product was actually coming off of a production line or a production set of tools. You can have a production set of tools ahead of a production full line for assembly. So just to not get overly wonky or complex. So if we had access and someone could answer this question, it'd be great to know, were these Cybercabs all prototooled? Was there a mixture, prototype and production? Because why I'm bringing that up is there's usually a fairly decent time frame based on the complexity of the product from when they release production tools because then they have to go in, and when they get their first set, they've got to test it, they got to iterate them, they may have to do some modifications, and then you take production tools into production. You don't wait for production to build your first production tools. You're actually evaluating them through the development process. So what that could do is that could kick off this timer of maybe this is why it's 9 months to 12 months or so for start of production, because that Cybercab, we're driving around that track, that could be a final validation off of, maybe softer prototype tools before they go make the spend and you go make the commitment. When you actually go to cut steel on production tool, whether it's, anything inside of the car, some of the structure, any of the parts, any of the connectivity, when you go to cut steel for production tool, that's a longer term commitment, and you've got a smaller window in terms of the kind of changes you can make to a production tool before it can be ready for production. So in summary, I think this could be just them testing in terms of that transition of going from prototype to more production tooling, or they could be further along. It's hard to say, but I don't think this is not any kind of final testing for production starting in next quarter. This is not that.
Well, Jeff, can you explain a little bit? So when you say that, what's your time frame, right? Because you heard Elon say that we have volume scale production in 2026. What does he mean by volume scale, not just production?
That means more of the capacity on their lines inside of their factory and at their suppliers are all up on their production final configuration production tooling. So what you usually start with is you usually go from a prototyping arrangement to one set of a production arrangement, one set at suppliers, one set inside, and then once you've kind of got everything dialed in, and then you say, all right, to the N plus 20 other sets of copy tooling, you kick all of those off. So that's what the copy tooling is, what gets you the scale that you need. The copy N+1 lines, or the N+1 why am I having a blank in terms of the unbox? Sorry, the copying the actual cells in the unblock, that will happen. That will splinter off and happen in greater volume once they've got kind of the first one validated. So that's what volume production in 2026 means. That takes a period of time. Like, it's a chain reaction. Like, once you switch from more prototyping operations to mostly production operations to all production operations, and then you want to go copy. That's a series of events and timing. And great companies have people that manage those schedules. Think of, like, you've heard the term of, like, synchronizing the train so they leave on time, leave a station, and enter a station on time. Think of those trains as all the different lines of production tooling that have to be released. They have to be brought in, they have to be validated, and then they've got to be installed, and then they've got to be validated in their final configuration. So that's that whole chain of events, why it would be volume scale in 2026. But it doesn't mean that in 2025 they're not ready to start production on that first set of production tools. So there may be some limited volume at the end of the year, but the thing that matters, everybody should be keen on, is the slope of the ramp curve. That's what matters, and that's what volume scale is all about.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, next question to you, Matt, is some people are saying that they think that this Cybercab, Tesla's not telling you, but it can actually be turned into a compact car. Just add a steering wheel, add some pedals to it. And in fact, they might rule that out next year. Your best buddy, Farzad, is now saying that that's what he thinks this is. Oh, they're just going to put a steering wheel and pedals, and all of a sudden, this car is actually the compact car, and actually it's going to come out next year. What do you think about that?
So as much as I am inclined to just knee-jerk disagree with Farzad on anything, I actually think that this makes a lot of sense. And the reason I think this is right is not just that seems like a logical thing to do, but they are talking about a compact, cheaper versions of new vehicles, new lines, not just like a refreshed Model Y, but launching in 2025. So if that's the case, then it's is it more likely that there's some cheaper version of like a Model 3 or a Model Y out there that they're going to launch, and then the Cybercab also, but like a year later? Or does it make more sense that, you just do like some limited type of launch of Cybercab with the steering wheel, with the pedal, roll that out in smaller volumes, and maybe work out some of the production kinks through that process, and then eventually you just delete the steering wheels and delete the parts that aren't needed, like Elon has said in the past. To me, that makes a lot of sense, and it seems more probable that would be the case than they've kind of side by side developed some new, cheaper, call it $30,000 vehicle, which all of a sudden is going to get Osborne 1 year later when Cybercab rolls out. So that's the thing that makes most sense to me, is that there is going to be some version. Now, somebody did ask Elon, like, what I think it was on the 1010 event, like what is that car? Like, what are you going to be launching? I forget the exact phrasing that they used, but Elon said, you guys don't get it. Like, literally all the cars are going to be Cybercabs, Model X's, Model Y's, Model S, like the existing lineup. Cybertrucks are going to be Cybercab, or are going to be robotaxis. So it doesn't matter if you have a steering wheel or not to figure out whether it can be a robotaxi or not. So like, if I'm just thinking about this from Tesla's perspective, like, launch Cybercab as quick as possible, whether or not it has a steering wheel and an accelerator pedal. And then as soon as you get to the point where, like, for regulatory reasons, you don't need those, just delete them out, have the cost savings, and maybe that's what you're launching in volume in 2026, as Jeff was saying. So to me, I do think this makes a lot of sense. And if this is not the case, then what the heck is this other vehicle that they reiterated again on the Q3 letter is going to be launching in the first half of 2025?
Who agrees or disagrees with them?
I think we all agree with Farzad, but nobody wants to admit it.
I disagree.
It is
I'm so
hard.
sorry.
Yeah.
Are you kidding
I'm
me?
not sure
So
I
all
agree. Go ahead, Herbert.
So all three of you, including group here, believe that this Cybercab is actually going to be launched as a compact car.
I didn't say
with
that.
pedals and wheels. Oh, I'm asking you. I'm just repeating. What did you say then?
I didn't say
Do you
that.
agree with what? Okay.
No, I said I don't agree. Go ahead, Herbert.
Oh,
And
okay,
Herbert doesn't
okay.
listen, so.
It's all transmit, no receive.
I thought I could.
Whoa.
Oh, and he just quits.
That
He
was
just
me.
up and
That
quits.
was me.
Oh.
I put him on the wrong button. Sorry, Herbert. I pushed you out. Now, how do I
just want to be
switch
at the top left. Oh, that's
Exactly.
me.
How do we
have control.
switch? There we go.
I gave Alexandra control. She's
Actually, no, I'm really sorry. I thought I had the unmute button and I clicked on your thing. I'm sorry.
okay. So Jeff and I don't agree. So here's why. I think that for them to turn the Cybercab into a compact car with steering wheels and pedals is doable for sure. I believe that's the case. I think it's a plan B. If you look at the Walter Isaacson book, basically they're going all out robotaxi. But why don't we build a car that, in case robotaxi doesn't happen in time, we have this plan B. It's a plan B, not a plan A, which is what you guys are saying. You're saying that you think that the drivable version of the Cybercab will come out next year first before the robotaxi. I just don't think that that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do that either.
But we agree that there are 3 new cars coming next year, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So one is going to be the Y refresh.
Mm-hmm.
One is going to be a 7 to 9 seater, so Matt can finally put all his kids in the same car.
7 won't do it.
And-
We need 9.
So you have a frunk.
Stop one day. How about you stop at one point? Don't keep on going. If we get a 9 seater, you'll come up
Wait,
with 10,
Matt,
right?
are you going to have another kid like 9 months from now?
No, but baby number 7 is due in February. So 7 plus my wife and I, we need 9. We're in like big fat van territory.
Okay, so the 9 seater from Matt for the Smith family is coming. And then the number 3, I think it would make a lot of sense that it would have a lot of the elements of the Cybercab. I just think it will, have that look. Why would they invent something different? The only thing that bothers me is the 2-seater factor. I don't think the in the old days we called it the Model 2, is going to be a two-seater. I think it's going to be a four-seater. And obviously the Cybercab, as it was presented, is a two-seater. So that's the only thing that makes me diverge a little bit from Farzad, where I say they won't just put a pedal and a steering wheel in there. There should be faculty to seat 4 people.
So,
right?
so that makes a lot of sense to me, and I would agree with that. And that same hesitancy that you have, also, like I've got that same hesitancy. But when I look at the problem with that theory of, okay, like it probably should be a 4-seater at minimum, versus the problem of, like, are you going to really develop a whole separate model that literally would get Osborne 1 year later? To me, that seems much less likely and way more stupid than let's develop a 2-seater, sell it for a year, maybe work out some of the production kinks, and then at that point transition to like the full robotaxi, like just iterate on the production line. And yeah, like maybe it's not going to be the hottest seller, maybe it doesn't outpace Model Y, but strategically that just seems like it makes a lot more sense to me than assuming there's 2 full new models, one of which is like literally going to make sense for 1 year and then get Osborne.
Exactly. And the one thing I would like to ask Jeff or anybody who has an opinion on it, how difficult is it for the structure of the car to make a shorter trunk, because the Cybertruck trunk is enormous, right? Very deep, and have instead a back row.
Yeah, I think it touches a lot inside of the vehicle actually to do that, because you've got the rear wheels, you've got, that you're talking about a lot of the structure of the vehicle. So I think here's what I think Tesla is doing, and they continue to go back to these lean approaches where they try to drive immense reuse throughout their portfolio. So when they design something, it's not a one and done thing. It's something that it can get picked up, whether it's the insides, the guts of the vehicle, or the outside of the vehicle. It's something that they can pick up and reuse multiple times over and over. So I do think the new design language on the sedan side is the Cybercab design language. I think that the question in my mind is, what are these new lower cost vehicles going to look like? All we know is their construction technique is going to be the serial general assembly flow, leveraging the 3Y capex that's been installed. By the way, a lot of people don't realize that when these interim vehicles start ramping up and they start getting into significant volumes, the capex allocation to the 3Y is going to come down, and 3Ys are going to be cheaper to build. And sometimes, when you're end of lifing a product line, a lot of people don't realize that. The depreciation of capex comes down, but your volumes are coming down, so you still have that kind of beefy allocation. But now, if you're getting something that's near the end of its life, but now you're all of a sudden adding more products to that capex, it's going to actually meaningfully help, I think, the 3Y. But the question in my mind is, what do these new interim low cost vehicles look like? I think we're going to be surprised. I don't have any idea. What I do know what Tesla is doing is they're pulling forward the modules from the unbox process, from the Cybercab. When I say modules, I'm saying battery pack design, motor, inverter, these new lower cost modules that they talked about on Investor Day. They're bringing these forward, and they're going to use the standard assembly techniques from the serial general assembly line flow for 3Y, but they're pulling those things forward. So by developing these new lower cost modules, what I think Tesla is doing is this is the next platform, the next hardware platform for Tesla. It's the Ethernet ring, it's the 40-volt Ethernet ring. It's the new battery pack. It's the new motors, the new inverters, and all these are modules. Okay. And what Tesla is doing, Tesla's in a race to get these modules ramped, get them to peak capacity, get them to peak yields. They'll be at their trough level in cost. And by the time the Cybercab starts, the real cost drag is just going to be, where is the factory at in unbox velocity, and what does it take for it to ramp? So long answer to a question, I think there's flexibility in what these new interim low-cost vehicles will look like, But I think the reason why I don't know if like, is Tesla doing exactly these 3 cars and here are the types, is because I think Tesla's actually given themselves more flexibility with these new modules. They brought the cost floor down, the COGS floor down, where they can actually do several different things. They've brought the size down and they brought the COGS floor down. And I think they've just opened themselves up and given them more flexibility, whether it's the 7 or 9 passenger vehicle, or whether is it the Cybercab design language coming in these interim vehicles. I mean, I don't know. I mean, anything is possible. You don't necessarily need the unbox process to get that form factor on the vehicle. So I think that's an interesting question. I just don't know. But what I do know is Tesla's enabled themselves to do a lot more at a lower cost point than they've ever done before. So this is going to be, if you're not following this in this level of platforming and what they're moving, this is really going to put, I think, other car companies in a bit of a bind for a while.
I agree, and especially at the moment where everybody else is suffering, right? So we have currently the European suffering, and I know, Herbert, I promised you to do a special on that, and I'll work on that in the coming days, because the German automakers and talk about a mess, a real mess. But then Jeff, and I hope you get into that a little bit later, you were talking about the Chinese. The Chinese, it's not all sunshine either. Obviously, let's not talk about GM and Ford, who have their own struggles. And the whole American manufacturing politics now that are going to, have a real impact. GM is the biggest car maker in Mexico, and I don't think that is going to fly with the next administration. So while we have all the others having so many pain points, Tesla is coming up with such an improved production schedule, but also means of doing it in the crucial year. So the next 12-15 months, I think they're full of surprises. I think we will learn lots of start of productions that are much earlier than people anticipated. We will hopefully then have the ramps that go as quick as we hope they will. I'm extremely bullish on car production and COGS and everything that's linked to it. But let's not forget energy. We just talked about the Megafactory in China. And let's not forget FSD, because FSD is going to be the main driver. And I think it's going to happen in the next 12 to 24 months, not only in America.
Great. Okay, let's move on. Megapack Factory is something. There's news here on the Megapack Factory. Well, we don't know yet. It's unconfirmed. What we've got is this people reporting from China. The Chinese news are saying that the Shanghai Megapack Factory is going to be completed ahead of schedule this December. So I think they said it was going to start by first quarter of next year, but now some people are saying it might actually happen this December. Let's wait for Tesla's official announcement. This is the rendering of what it's going to look like. And we actually have photos. Warren Redlich had received some photos from a source from him. Interesting. Possible the Cybercab will be produced here at the Megapack Factory. I don't know where that came from. The Megapack Factory is huge, though not as big as Giga Shanghai, 600 meters from Giga Shanghai. Here's some of the photos. Just last week, these photos are of the Shanghai Megapack Factory. They look like it is almost done. And so I guess the rumors right now is that this is going to get done before the end of this year. Let's start with you, Mr. Energy, Matt Smith.
Yeah, so it's hard to know the veracity of these claims. I mean, looking at what they did with the original Shanghai Gigafactory, that was obviously ahead of schedule and extremely impressive. But I think while the frame of the building very much looks completed, a big piece of the actual work to be done is getting the equipment actually installed and when that gets up and running. So I don't think there's any clear information about how far along we are in that process. So I'd maybe be like cautiously optimistic around that front. But I think the good news is this is not going to be delayed. I mean, based on what we've seen in these rumors, I would be shocked if we're not producing some Megapacks by Q1 at the latest out of this Megafactory. But I just want to also kind of caution people that the way that the revenue recognition from these works is a lot different than traditional cars. So you ramp up the factory, but then there's a ramp with like how much revenue do you recognize when you actually produce the product versus deliver it to the customer versus have it energized. So I think there's reason to believe that process is probably going to go a little faster with Chinese battery projects than with the US, where we've got this crazy interconnection process, which is really dragged out. So hopefully things will go a little faster. But I don't think it's going to be the sort of thing that all of a sudden, like we're churning at 10 gigawatt hours per quarter, which is the full run rate, by Q2 or something like that, and all that's flowing to the bottom line. I think it's just going to take a little bit of time. But this is still certainly good news, and I think it's probably underappreciated by people who aren't looking at the details, because this is going to become really impactful, probably by this like Q4 of 2025. I think when you start looking at the run rate, and the Lathrop factory is going to be at full capacity. You've got power walls also being produced, which I think a lot of people forget about, and then you've got Shanghai ramping, and eventually Giga Nevada as well. This is like lots and lots of Megapacks, and it's going to become an increasing percentage of the overall gross margin and net income mix of the company. So if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss it.
Mm-hmm. So this was something that Alexandra and I, last Cyber Bowls, we said that we're hoping and we're thinking that they would actually announce the completion of the factory. Jeff, you had a more nuanced answer to that. I'll ask you what that is. But I wanted to show this, which is in April of 2023, Tesla announced that our next Megapack factory will be in Shanghai, capable of producing 10,000 Megapacks per year. This is a very official photo. You got Grace Tao, Vice President in China for Tesla, signing the agreements. Very official looking launch of the ceremony, the signing ceremony, April 2023. This is what they look like. So China speed. What was your thinking about all this, Jeff?
Yeah, so in the Q2 earnings deck and the Q3 earnings deck, they changed the verbiage in the deck relating to this factory. In Q2, they said started production Q1. That was the expectation. And in the Q3 deck, the most recent one, that was in the third week of October, they said start shipping in Q1. So from the start of production to actually be able to be qualified and shipped to a customer, there's several internal factory milestones that need to be, resolved. So what I would caution people, first off, that is a pull-in. Tesla is guided to pulling in this factory from starting only production in Q1 to actually start shipping. So that's good news. And the only thing I would caution people on is if they hear like, okay, they may pull production into the last couple of days of December, that's fine. But the key thing is, when are they shipping to customers for money, and what's the slope of the ramp look like? And every indication from everything they've done in Shanghai, the slope of the ramp will be steeper, but that's where we need feedback from them on. And then when do they start shipping for money? Those are the two important data points. If they pull in and they start building a couple earlier in December, I think that's fine. I think that's great. And then remember, Tesla will start up a factory, and other suppliers and other OEMs will start up a factory while they're still finishing building it, like they do it in various zones. So don't get too enamored with the start, get more enamored with them shipping for money, and then what the slope of the ramp curve looks like.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Yeah. Okay. I think that it's the first month of Q1 versus the last month of Q1. And that's good news. So what we covered so far, go ahead.
No, I just want to say, I think it's very good that Jeff reminds us that, start of production is nothing. That's not why you make money. You make money when you start selling. So, and to get really to significant numbers, the speed of the ramp is the most important thing to look into. But especially for the Megapacks, I'm very, very confident. I mean, they have perfectioned their method in Lathrop. So it's not as if they are coming with a new product to a new country. And I also wanted to add something to Warren's tweet earlier, where he said he's hearing the Cybercab may be produced also in Shanghai. I hear some rumors as well. Usually I don't like to convey the rumors, but I think one thing that we could share is all my different sources, and they are good sources, convey that production of the next 3 models. So this is, start of production in Q1 and Q2 of next year, is simultaneously in Austin, Berlin, and Shanghai. And I think nobody expects that on Wall Street. Nobody is ready for that. And I'm very hopeful that this is going to really shake the market up.
Wow. Okay, so there you go. If that's true, then Matt, this is not the unboxed model. This is not the Cybercab. This is existing production lines using the
this mixed procedure
version of
that
a
they
Model 3 and
discussed.
Model 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, they basically said that, right? I mean, this isn't news.
Then why are you then saying that there's going to be a drivable Cybercab?
Yeah.
Well, because
why are you saying that?
But what is the third model? I mean,
Because
it's
there's the
so
third
good that you're accusing Matt and me. That's the only good solution for a third model.
They've said they're going to use the unbox process as part of like refresh on the Model Y, right? And they've said that there's this new lower cost model that's going to be produced. Like both of those things are true. There's no contradiction there. So
exactly,
like we're saying that this new model is most likely the Cybercab in some, like with the steering wheel model. And if it's not, then I think the burden is on you guys to say like, what is this thing?
Exactly.
And
Not
why,
just
like,
say no. Right,
yeah.
Matt. That's
like,
it.
Just
Good,
answer like, oh, if you're going to stick to your guns,
It's a
like
modified
finish
Model
the
3.
intellectual integrity and say, what do you think this thing is?
It's
and
a
why
modified Model 3 because
What thing?
the Model 3 Model 3 is already built and it's on the same production line. They do a simple modification to it to create a lower cost vehicle that's $30,000 or including the incentives. It's
Okay,
just
I take the other
changing
side on
another
that one.
$5,000
Hawaii this
down.
time.
They're
Hawaii
not
this
going to
time.
do
I
that.
take the other one. Exactly.
I'm
You
not doing
lost that one before you even start. This is going to be the Hawaii trip that you pay for all of
So
us.
you,
This is perfect.
do you think, we will make that trip, by the way. Yes, I will
Why?
pay one day, regardless if I lose a bet or not. We will do it.
But it's not going to be a
But-
Model 3. If they use an existing model, it would be the Model Y because it's the most sold car. It's the most practical car. It's the right volume. I just think that it's going to be more futuristic than just a cheaper
It's not the
down
same.
Model Y.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
It says new vehicles.
Exactly.
In
It
the
doesn't
thing.
say Model Y stripped of everything. Oh my gosh, you're going to lose this one so badly. Please,
yeah.
Including
all remember,
including
because
new
he's gonna
vehicles,
pretend he
including
never said
more
that he
affordable
thinks
models.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Herbert, you're going to
I'm
be so
looking forward
wrong
to
on
Hawaii,
this one. You
personally.
love it already.
So you are saying that you feel strongly that they're going to take the Cybercab and create a drivable version of it, and that's what they're going to create for the ahead of the 2026
Affordable for the affordable car. The affordable car is going to be a drivable version of the Cybercab. The only thing that I think is different is that it's going to have a backbench. It still will have only 2 doors because it's the affordable version, and a backbench and a less profound trunk.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know. That's to me. That could happen. What I don't think they're going to do is meaningfully bring down the cost of an all-wheel drive Model 3 to the point where everything, all the stock and channel they have and all the material they have of the other one becomes obsolete. So that whole thing of Osborning and here's the lower price vehicles. They look exactly like what you bought last quarter. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to do something like that. Is it in the range? Is a probability greater than 0? Yes, but I think to get to the price points that they're trying, I think they're trying to make a step down from $35,000 to $45,000 vehicles down to maybe $5,000 to $7,000. They're trying to get lower. So they're going to get a lot of that through the new modules. And the question is are there going to have to be some trade-offs and the vehicle size and mass to get the rest of the cost? So I just don't know if it can be the existing Model 3. And again, I think you'd have you have the 3 and the Y. That'd be a very difficult thing to manage from a channel perspective in terms of excess obsolescence and channel inventory. When you do something like that, they're not just releasing, okay, this is rear-wheel drive. Like they're not just deleting features. It's almost like if you made a feature for feature equivalent lower cost vehicle that's all-wheel drive, but it looks just like what you were just selling the prior quarter. Man, I don't know how they would do something like that. It'd be very difficult to do. I'm not saying I'm not saying it's 0.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's just a stripped down Model
what it
3.
sounded like.
I'm saying
I
it's,
think it sounds
no,
like
I'm
Jeff's on
saying
our
that,
team. He's been
Yeah,
converted, and
I'm not
Herbert
saying
hasn't
it's a-
answered what this model would be.
I'm saying that it's a vehicle built off the existing production lines the Model 3, Model Y are on. It's going to be a
now
new
he's slipping
vehicle.
in the Model Y. Did you see that? Did you see how he's slipping in the Model Y?
I just said Model 3 earlier because it's going to be the Model 3. It's going to be a lower cost vehicle. And so it's likely more of a Model 3 version of it. It's not the Model 3. It's going to be something like in that
that
vein.
Hawaii trip is gonna be.
It's not a Model 3, it's a Model Trace.
Yeah. And the reason they're doing that is that it's simpler to take an existing production line to create a new vehicle out of that
Sure.
than it is to, like, Elon wants to create the Cybercab. He believes strongly that we're going to go all in on robotaxi. If it needed to, that's why they convinced them, let's create the version of, like let's create the style of the Cybercab to be something that if we needed to, as a plan B, we can put a steering wheel to that. But that's not plan A. Plan A is, let's create a version that's coming out of the existing production line. We'll hit that segment for that while we see robotaxi succeed. So, okay. I mean, there you go. So let's move on. Here we go. We've got the Megapack factory. We've
I
got
love
the
you,
vehicles.
Herbert. You're just wrong.
I know. Well, maybe. Yeah.
That's why he wants to move on.
A lot of people share, there's two sides, right? There's a lot of people who share what I'm thinking, and there's people that believe what you guys are saying.
Many more.
I agree. So let's take a look at this record 2024 R2D2 Bot. You guys think that there could be a record 2024? I mean, is that a surprise? I think that it's not a surprise, right? But do you think that they could be a major hit, I think all of us are probably thinking they're going to beat 1.8, but not like blow it out of the water.
But you agree, beating 1.8 about 3-4 months ago, nobody thought that was even a possibility anymore. So this really changed. The sentiment changed. I think the incentives they're putting in place in America will help. China is great. China is doing really well, despite everything we were told that they would not. They would lose market share, whatever. It's not true. Europe is difficult. Europe is working well, but Europe is so much incentive driven that there may be a push for December because some of the incentives are running out, but who knows whether a new one set up for January and people are waiting for them. So Europe, and obviously there's a different situation in every country. But I do believe that we have a good shot in beating the 1.8 million. Yes, so it will be a record year. But will it be close to 2 million? I don't think so. I think that is really, crazy. So the number that people bring forward is 500,000 this quarter. Would be nice. It doesn't matter to me at all. I mean, of course, I'd love it. Oh, by the way, I wanted to announce, because some of the people watching here have followed me on this. So I have still 17th of January calls at Strike 300. They are now finally printing, and I'm not gonna sell them straight out. I'm actually going to roll them into August next year. I just think there's so much coming. At the moment, I will increase the strike to 340, and that should be not possible to do without much additional premium. And just wanted to announce that. So I'm keeping options. I was telling everybody I wouldn't, but in the end, I'm so tempted because I see so much potential in the next 9 months that I'm gonna roll them into August.
Hey, Herbert, can you put a Chiron at the bottom that this is not investment advice, even though
This is not investment advice.
precise
This is not
investment advice, literally of like.
This is just my story. Who am I?
Yeah.
Good.
What are you doing, Herbert? Are you on a different meeting?
I'm
This
creating
is not investment advice. This is not investment advice. Yes, there we are.
No, but you got to put under Alexandra, who's.
No, he put it under yours. Did you see that?
If anything, it should be mine. I'm an actual financial advisor, and I am not
That's
advocating
true.
that.
I'm
Yeah, you
just a
should.
nobody. But anyway,
You should have a little sign you
people
put
like
up, Matt, that you kind of
Yeah.
twist around.
That's fine. Yeah.
Not investment advice and
in red and
a
white.
line.
Our
or something.
entire disclosure printed out, like 2 or 3 paragraphs. I'll just hold it up.
On a wooden sign.
I'm here for educational purposes.
She's
Matt
sharing
on
her
the street.
personal story. All right. So that's record 2024. Anybody have a different opinion of, you said 500,000. I think currently today in the third quarter, we're at 1.3. So 500,000 will bring us to 1.8, which is what it was last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the math has to be slightly over 500,000 to actually beat the exact number from last year. I don't remember the exact amount. I think they're going to pull out all the stops to try to make that happen. Because I mean, the headlines, if they miss it, even by like a dozen cars, right? There's going to be that Business Insider headline, like, "Oh, Tesla's deliveries are shrinking. Like Elon sucks." So I think they're going to do everything they can to surpass the exact number from last year. That said, I don't think that's necessarily anything to write home about, especially considering that you launched Cybertruck in this year too. So you've got the benefit of all those volumes. So will they do it? Yes. Is it better than it seemed like it was going to be 6 months ago? Yep, probably. But even back then, Elon was saying like there will be growth this year. But I mean I think really not anything super exciting. I mean, it's if you would have told the version of us 18 months ago that 2024 would essentially be flat over 2023, I don't think any of us would have been happy with that.
Yeah, I see these metrics just in a completely different way. There's the one metric of like how many cars are you going to ship, and then you kind of like want to double click out like, well, what's going on in the rest of the auto industry? And if you just hear like earnings and you just hear revenue from these other automakers, you're like, everybody's like, okay, this isn't so bad. But you really got to double click and look just one or two layers under. And there's some automakers that are in real trouble. And maybe we'll talk more about this on Monday, Herbert. This gloss over that everybody's doing with the China auto industry. I think there's going to be tremendous pain coming based on what some of the second and third order metrics are there. And we're already seeing what's happening in the US. If you look at F-150, for example, Ford inventory, 200,000 trucks in dealer inventory, most of them 24s, some of them even 23s. And they're trying to bring in the 2025s. And again, I'm not in this camp of like Ford and GM are going out of business next year. But what I'm saying is you can't just look at like how many cars are they shipping year on year, because you look in the case of GM, for example, GM, dealer inventory actually is fairly consistent year on year. They didn't add a ton to inventory. They didn't take a ton out of deal. I'm talking about in the US right now. But what they did do year on year is they're showing that their sales are up 9 or 10%, but their balance sheet inventory is up 14%. So you brought in you're either getting less efficient in converting product, or your utilization's slowing down in your factory, or you've got a bunch of orders canceled and you have a bunch of unmaxed sets. But long story short, you went from 35 billion in balance sheet inventory to 40 billion. And that's kind of a big jump. And the jump in inventory is bigger than the jump in sales. But this is what you won't hear I don't hear this on financial media. And one of the reasons is they're being compensated by these companies. But what I just go back to when I hear is like, are they going to ship 1.8 or not? I know that's a really important metric, but what I'm really happy about what Tesla did when they printed Q3, they increased production by 15%. They kept their balance sheet inventory consistent, literally identical quarter on quarter. They didn't increase their days payable outstanding to suppliers, so it's not like someone's holding the bag. And their channel inventory was the same quarter on quarter while they're increasing production. That is a well-run operation. When they're increasing their volume, and by the way, they increase gross margins too. So Tesla's when they're doing this in a very healthy way, is my point. And these numbers are not necessarily comparable. You got to look one or two layers deeper.
Wow. Look at the expertise we have in this panel. Fantastic. All right. Next potential surprise. This is completely just out of the blue, totally just guessing, and everybody's having fun with this. Could there be an R2D2 bot instead of the Optimus? This was what Tesla Japan posted just a few days ago, coming soon. Here's a photo of Optimus, and people like Kristen pointing it out again, and I somehow cut off the second part. She said, this does not look like Optimus. It's got thinner arms. It's got a wider body. Could it be R2D2? Could it be another form factor, or is this just completely just out of total guessing games?
I mean, this is like a nothing burger. I'm sorry. I'm not jumping on this train. I feel, we have one bot and there will be variants of, body shapes or whatever. But I don't believe that Tesla Japan now suddenly has the privilege to announce us. What's Tesla Japan? It's one of the smaller countries for Tesla at the moment. So I think they're gonna, show Optimus there and present it to the Japanese consumers. But I don't see any conspiracy theory or second version or R2D2 or a bigger what's that doll called they're now selling or have outsold already. So I just don't think. I think this was, the way the photo was taken obviously didn't look as classic as it usually does. But other than that, I don't see anything in this story.
Hey, Herbert, if you, I agree. I think if you go back to the photo, it's an interesting thing that Kristen pointed out. But isn't this what like a lot of like Instagram models, everybody's like telling, like, this is how you pose for a picture if you want to look smaller.
Exactly.
Your body.
I know something about that.
So it's more of the side, and then you pull your arms back. So couldn't this be the same thing, but they're kind of like doing a proper pose to look smaller?
So maybe Optimus is a girl. Is that it? Oh my!
Like
now
this?
we're on to something.
It would look better with the duck lips, though. I wish we could see that. I do think Optim Mini is a better name than R2D2 personally. I think that rolls off the
I like
tongue a little
Optim
bit.
Mini. Love it. Yeah. I mean, the only reason it's possible, well, we know for sure Tesla's going to create R2D2s. I know, because you've heard Elon refer to C3POs and R2D2s over and over again. We've heard Tesla AI team members refer to bot animals and other bot animals. That's what
Cat
they
girls,
called it.
right?
So it's going to happen. But like you say, is it going to happen now? Are they about to release it now? Very unlikely. Very unlikely. So let's put that to bed. What they did release in the last few days that's really catching fire is all these demand levers that we're seeing. So the most recent one was the referral program. It's taken off. Like it's been very, very successful. They've increased it so that if you are the referrer, you get $1,000 for every time you refer it and somebody buys it. And the buyer, if they buy a vehicle, they get $2,000 off their vehicle. This is a very big program. Of course, there's lots of details I've covered in depth, but they also have these promotions. Like there's 0 interest if you buy FSD. You get 3 months free FSD. You get 3 months free supercharger. There's a lease program in Australia, where this is a very lucrative leasing program, and there's maybe even others. I just wanted to ask you, the panel here, what you guys thought about all these demand levers that they have. And, Jeff, you can answer maybe the margin impact, but to me, and you, Alexandra, because you guys know this really well, is like a lot of this is pretty low cost to Tesla completely. This referral program, that $1,000 the referrer gets has to be spent on Tesla products, Tesla service, Tesla vehicles. And so the margin is high. The FSD supercharger, uniquely, those are really low cost, if not 100% margin. Of course, the lease is something they have to buy down. Their interest rate is something they have to buy down.
No, but they're selling them to the banks. The lease is the least issue of it. I actually, the day they released the Cybertruck lease, I got one because I like to have leases, and it allowed me to put it on the company, and that allowed us to have the 7,500 federal credit on it. So there were a couple of reasons that made the lease more attractive than financing or buying out cash. I just don't want to buy out cash because I don't want to sell any of my Tesla stock. So that was straight away not an option. So what happened with the leases? Meet Kevin. Doc, whatever his name is, I still don't remember. A couple of us ordered the Cybertruck the same week. And I must have been the only one doing it on a lease. And all of them got them the next week, while my lease, I contacted them yesterday, will have it in the first 10 days of December. So mine was much delayed. So, they're clever because obviously they're buying back my lease from the Model X. I don't want to hand back the X simultaneously. I want to keep 2 cars over the holidays just because I have so many kids coming back. But I do believe they thought, anybody that has a lease buyback an old lease that they switched to this new lease, they wanted to make sure we're in the new billing cycle in December before they give us the Cybertruck rather than delivering them straight away. So anyway, very clever the way they did it. It was perfect execution. I straight away had a Tesla team member reaching out, calculating. They had 3 different bank offers for me for the lease, which gives me straight away the surety that they're actually reselling them already. They're repackaging them immediately to throw them to the banks, and very well done, very well executed.
Yeah, I love listening to when Alexandra puts her expertise on what's happening in terms of the financially, like how these transactions are happening. And I think you said it well, Herbert, too. The things these credits, like on supercharging, these credits on the referral credit that is given, guess what? I mean, just go look at some of the stuff in the Tesla store or look at your service. I'm not complaining, but like my winter wheel swap used to be $80 to swap my wheels, and now it's $167. It's changed like that over the last year. Tesla should be doing this. There's inflation, there's things are going up, and they should be charging more for certain things. The point is they are offering, in terms of what these spiffs, they're offering very high margin things for them to attract actually more income into their business. It's a very smart approach to running a business. Will this have ASP, the lines between MSRP and net ASP, the cost of sales? Will this increase the cost of sales? Yes, this will increase the cost of sales. The question is where is this money going? Is it going to higher margin endpoints? And what's their rate of decline on COGS? And how's that going? Because again, they're pulling product from their suppliers. They're building their product in record time. They only have 18 days or 19 days, even if they had 25 days in channel. The rest of the auto industry in the US right now has 85 days in channel. So if you're a supplier, you're going to give Tesla, and Tesla needs a price reduction, you're going to give it to them. You're not going to give them everything, but you're going to be more inclined to give them something versus if you're a supplier to someone else. Because if you're a supplier to Ford or you're the same supplier to GM and you give them a price reduction or you give them something, they're not reordering from you until they get through that whole supply network again. Supply network's very short for Tesla. Channel inventory is very short for Tesla. So on the COGS side, I always question people on this. Like they're trying to, I mean, it's great to have a model and to try to do it by quarter. I think it's great. I think it's, I'm not opposed to it, but I don't know how you do it. Again, from being on the inside of these companies and they don't know their COGS until the very end as well. There's so many puts and takes that happen at the end. It's okay to track on the outside, but I like kind of more looking at kind of the longer term trajectory and like, what are they doing strategically with model size, with volume per SKU? What are they doing with localization around their factories? Those are the real things that'll tell me where their COGS are going versus trying to say like, did China reduce the cost of batteries and give them some sort of spiff in Q3? Maybe, but guess what? They're sitting on a shit ton of inventory. That's why they actually had to do that. So anyway, long answer as usual.
I'll just jump in and say, the thing that I really like about the incentives that Tesla is introducing are, the supercharging one. I mean, that's a very low cost thing that they can throw in there. I mean, the actual cost to Tesla to do several months of supercharging is like very limited. But I think the thing that's nice about it is it gets consumers thinking about range and where are all the superchargers. And I think we're in this moment right now where so many people have this range anxiety that we all know is completely blown out of proportion. But when they start actually doing the research on supercharging and what it would actually cost, I think that's something that's going to be helpful in just kind of alleviating that as a concern. But the thing that I'm more excited about is the free FSD trials. I mean, that has the potential, if people like it, they realize how good it is, and they decide to subscribe in the future. I mean, that's like the huge cash cow potentially in the long run. So you could actually, this is a point Elon's made before, like you could basically sell the cars at cost and make up for it on the back end with FSD. And if FSD take rate is high enough, then you could absolutely do that with a free subscription for a while just to get people hooked, as long as the conversion rates are reasonably known and you have some idea of how long do they churn out. You can kind of generate like a lifetime value model of that FSD subscription. So, but that's the one that I think is like I'm most excited about. Like, I really think they should be pushing that as hard as they possibly can.
So, okay, thank you guys very much. Alexandra, you're going to get your Cybertruck next week?
Before December 10th, I was told.
Okay. Oh my God. Can you recreate all the photos that Kim Kardashian did, but with you? Then you can ask for the bot.
I mean, you
Tesla.
don't, I mean, I'm 58. You don't want to see me in underwear. I'm
Could
sorry.
Bloomer pop-up pose as the bot in those pictures?
Actually,
No,
he would
ask
do
Tesla
that.
to
I hope he
give you the
doesn't
bot.
listen. He would do that. He would do that. Don't tell him. But
We need to
I mean,
petition him to
I
get
will
those
do
pics.
pictures. I was actually thinking about, how I will get dressed. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
I'm all about getting dressed these days, right? I'm so happy to fit in so many clothes again. So I was thinking about how to get dressed for picking it up, because I think I need to be, quite futuristic and different. So maybe I'm in for a surprise.
Okay. Well, can we live stream it?
You want to live stream it? Let's do a Cyberballs pickup of the Cybertruck. Oh my gosh, I'd love that.
Would you? Oh my God. Okay, that's great. Well, that's another surprise, right? We're going to see Alexandra in a futuristic outfit picking up her Cybertruck. That'll be a surprise next
We'll
month.
see.
Yeah. Thank you guys very much. That was fun. There's a number of ideas here. Obviously, most of these are just us talking, and they've not been confirmed by Tesla. But there are some things that Tesla does do surprises, and they do sometimes go ahead of schedule. And there's some signals here. There's some little clues that we kind of unearthed.
Lots of little clues these days. I want to add just one thing, Herbert, if you let me. I'm sorry I'm talking so much today. It's I want to know from our audience, and they should put it in the comments, of whether they can have a Thanksgiving dinner without mentioning Tesla to their family.
Good question.
Right?
Good question. But
Better than
when
politics
that happens
or
to
not,
my
I don't
family,
know.
I purposely say I say to myself, I'm not going to talk. I'm not going to say a word from friends and family. They bring it up.
And then,
of course, I have to
jump on
answer.
it?
Then I have to remind myself, stop. But they bring it up. Okay. My friends and family are the ones that bring it up. So what do you do?
better than politics, right?
It is politics, though, dude. Come on. You can't separate the two anymore. Thank you, Matt.
So let's
Appreciate
wish
you joining
everybody
us.
happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Alexandra. Appreciate everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Bye-bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.